Hi, I'm Owen, the host of the Australian Finance Podcast. This podcast is proudly sponsored by BetaShares, one of the leading providers of ETFs here in Australia. Serving thousands of financial advisors and over 1 million investors, BetaShares manages tens of billions of dollars on behalf of investors right across the country. I'm proud to partner with BetaShares on the Australian Finance Podcast, Australia's premier financial podcast, because there is great alignment in the long-term philosophy shared by both businesses. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Australian Finance Podcast.
Gemma Mitchell, how are you going?
I'm going great, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. You're back from Bali.
I am. You can't really tell because I'm not tanned at all. I'm like pasty all year round. But yes, did a week in Bali. Was very relaxing.
Oh, nice. What was the highlight?
I went to bucket list item. I went to the Cave, and it's a restaurant at this fancy hotel. Didn't stay at the hotel. It was like $4,000 a night. But I went to the Cave, the restaurant, and it has literally in a cave, as it says, and it has like maybe 10 other people, like other tables that sit there, and you go in. It's a big experience, and it's like 10 course wine pairing. Yeah, so remortgaged the house to do that, but it was a highlight.
That's all right. Bucket list item. That's an accomplishment. So well done to you. Today we're answering a heap of questions that got sent in. We're going to recap on something that we spoke about last fortnight with James, one of the financial advisors here at Rask. And we've got a few questions about margin loans. What are they? Is it something to do with property? Is it too good to be true? And life insurance is something that we'll tackle at the end of today's show. We do love your questions though, so keep sending them in. Gemma and I love to do these each and every week. When she's not in Bali, of course, and enjoying her bucket list items. So you can send them in via the link in your podcast player. If you're watching on YouTube, just head to the description where you'll find the field or the link that says ask a question and just select the Australian Finance Podcast. Any of the questions that we do answer on the show are strictly general in nature and should not be treated as personalised financial advice. That's what a financial planner is for. So don't act on the information you hear on any RASC podcast until you've spoken to your financial advisor, or at very least, read the PDS of things like insurance and super and ETFs and all that sort of stuff. But before we get to the questions, Gem, what have you been up to other than Bali? Like, what's been happening this past week?
School holidays last week, so that was a bit hectic. Kids are back at school now, so everything's settled down. But I know you're going to talk about something about Raiz for Charlie. And I actually set up a Raiz account this week too. So I was like,
did you really?
Snap. Yeah. Well, I actually, because we've been doing a lot of work with Raiz and they're, big partner of the show. I was like, I better actually have an account and check out because they're doing some amazing stuff, right? And I logged back in and I still had my old account. It was just like deactivated. So I added the roundups in and I started doing that. This is not an ad for them. But remember, I have said several times that those roundup apps don't work for me because I budget like all my cash flow and then at the end of the week, they'll come out and I go overdrawn. But I'm giving it another shot thinking that I think I'm more responsible with my cash flow and my buffers and stuff now. I think I can make it work. So we'll see. Watch this space. I'll tell you in a couple of months how often my account's been overdrawn by rounding up investing.
Okay. There's quite a few different roundup tools available. I think from memory, I could be wrong. I think Sharesies has one. Perla has one. But Raiz was like the OG. It used to be called Acorns for anyone that does need to go and reactivate their account. I just wanted to give an update on this because I know you said it was school holidays in your notes for today. And that prompted me to go and check on Charlie's Raiz account. He's got $72.55 in there as at the time of recording. And, that's a good start. We're saving up. It's through our own investment platform, Rask Invest. A kid's account needs $5,000 in it to cover, because we say that covers the costs and makes it worthwhile. So we're saving up for that. We're almost there. We've got each of the grandparents tipped in $1,000 for an investment account. And then
Nice.
my mum, who collects all the, who collects coins. I know it's an interesting thing, but she collected this bag of coins, of mostly silver coins, almost like exclusively silver coins, I think. And it's like the size of like a kettle. So think like a standard kettle in a kitchen. It's like that much in coins. It's like $700, I think, in just 50-cent pieces and 20-cent pieces and stuff. And I put it on my desk at home the other day, and I felt like my desk was going to like fall like cave in because it was so heavy. So she's like, you can put this towards Charlie's investments. I'm like, okay. So now I need to go find one of those, those ATMs where you can pour the coins in
Yes.
and it automatically counts everything, because I ain't counting that many coins,
No, you definitely want to go to them. I actually went to one. I got the piggy bank out and I went on Monday to CBA, who I bank with, because you got to use your card, so they let you use the machine. And the coin machine was out of order. And I was like, what are the chances the one day in 5 years I come to bring the money box in, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So I think
he's going to be at five grand by no time at all.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that, and this is a good lesson for all parents and grandparents. The one advantage that kids have in investing is that they've got more time than you. So the sooner you can make that investment, even if it's $50, in a Raiz account, $72.55 for Charlie, the sooner you can make that commitment, the vastly better off that they'll become. You could probably stop by their 5th birthday and not need to add anything, and they would still have enough to maybe buy a car or something like that by the time they're 18, because that's just how compounding works. So it's all about maximizing the time. So we obviously wanted to make sure we did that. And, a good lesson to all grandparents, if you don't want to do the whole cold inheritance thing, which we talked about not too long ago, maybe you can implement a policy in your family where you give each of your grandkids $100 or the parents to invest or something like that. You can use a platform like Raiz, Pearl, a sponsor of the show, Disclosure. There's a bunch of platforms you can use that make it really easy for you to do that. And final thing, but just behind the scenes here at RASC, we're working on a bunch of new courses, which you're spearheading, Gem. Lots of financial advice clients coming through now, which is wonderful to see and meet new singles and couples, retirees, younger people too. And then we're also working on something else, which is really boring for podcast talk, but it's massive for our business, where we can't really say too much in the sense that, I don't know, how would you describe?
It's more a watch this space. Exciting opportunities, partnership. It's growth. It's really, really exciting stuff for us and the community, I think. But it's a bit under wraps at the moment because we're just in the T's and C's, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, all the boring kind of stuff, our side that needs to be done. And then we can talk about it more later.
Yeah.
But
hopefully in the next month you'll start to see some different things on maybe social media or stuff that we can talk more about, and it will make sense what we're trying to build behind the scenes at RASC, which is really exciting for us. So we've got the education, which is rolling over. We've got new courses coming on the education side. So if you don't already have an account, you can also now get a 60-day free trial to our RASC core membership. That's all, you don't need to put your credit card in or whatever. Just go and check it out. So there's heaps of stuff happening over at rask.com.au if you want to go to the website.
The community board also, the RASC community board has been buzzing lately, and the new advisors we've got on Tarly and James, they're always in there, commenting, posting stuff, and it's just a bit of a vibe over there at the moment. There's lots of great conversations and stuff happening.
Yeah. So in order to get to the RASC community, this is a really important point for anyone that's listening or watching. In order to get to the RASC community.rask.com.au, we've deliberately made it so that you have to create our RASC account. It's free. It's always free. But we did that so you don't get those people that jump in Facebook groups and they're just like, hey, what do you think of this crypto? And here's my chart. Or, just scammers. We just don't want
There's
that.
no spooking businesses and all of that kind of stuff.
There's nothing like that in there. So go and check it out. It's just a really helpful community, whether you're a beginner or advanced, lots of retirees in there in particular. So check it out. So there was a question that James and I did have a little bit of a yarn about last week, but he and I didn't really know much about it. I'd read on and off about it in the kind of financial news over the past 2 years. And I thought maybe we'd just get you to weigh in on this. So this was the question last week for people that are familiar about the collapse of a financial thing. Do you want to go, Gemma?
Yeah. So did you guys cover off on this question?
A little bit. Yeah, we only just touched on it briefly.
Yeah. So the original question that came through, but there's been lots of chat about it all the time, was from someone called Miss Gullible, which just is absolutely devastating to read. But it was around with the collapse of First Guardian, so a superannuation fund. what for individuals, what advice would you give individuals or amateur investments? What steps should they take to protect themselves of this kind of future risk? So with the collapse of this super fund, what's really concerning is that, yes, there's 6,000 people invested in that, potentially won't get all of their money back, might not even get some of it. There's lots of different things happening and lots of layers. But outside of that, just in general, it's devastating for investors, superannuation holders, because it shakes our confidence on these systems that we put so much trust in. So this was, I think it's very important that we talk about it again. But I also wanted to highlight, if you're one of these people that have potentially lost everything, whether it's this or in something else. We did an episode a while ago now, and I'll link it in the show notes, with Tracy Hall, she wrote a book called The Last Victim, and she had her whole superannuation and personal investments stolen by a con man that she was dating. Now, this is a very different story, obviously, but it's that element of trust. It's that element that you feel like everything is taken away from you, and how do you rebuild? And her story of how she trusted a financial advisor, how she found one, how she got her things back on track, and now she's back further, ahead than where she was. Just her story of that rebuild and that recovery, and how hard it was, but the action she took. I think it would be really, really great for people to look at how she did it. So slightly different situation, but so many of those elements will be really, really inspiring to people that are really struggling with that collapse.
Yeah, it's not just, like you said, it's not just the 5,000 or 6,000 people who invested their money in it, but it's also the implications that it has for people who are now really skeptical, because you might be like, well, why would I put my money with this super fund? Why would I put my money with that thing? Even more recently, I think people have started to realize that, the finance industry isn't always perfect. And by that, I mean, I know there's always the news things, but what I mean by that is sometimes in Australia, we take things for granted, or even you pick up an Apple phone and you just expect it to work. Right? There's things that we take for granted that we're just what happens if one day it doesn't work, And then we start to get lose faith in a lot of things. We've had a lot of cybersecurity things between Medibank, Optus, literally everyone that has customer data, so many things over the years that if you actually start to piece together, you should probably be mindful that you shouldn't take it for granted, and you should be aware of these really important things in your life, particularly your finances. Now, this one in particular, if I could characterize it this way, this is only my opinion, is that it was this one was deliberate activities, in my opinion, from some types of people that were deliberately misleading people.
Doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm.
They were deliberately doing the wrong thing. The vast majority, 99% of the industry of finance, are out to do the right thing. And Tali, who came on the show, financial advisor, a couple months ago now, she actually did an analysis of this, of where the complaints and things come from in the financial planning profession. And what she found was it was only, I could be wrong exactly on the number, but it was something less than 30 of all the firms are the ones that get almost all of the complaints.
Yeah.
So it really is just a small number. But I think the lesson that you say is, don't be scared off. You can rebuild. There are plenty of opportunities to do that if that's what's required. And most people are out to do the right thing, not the wrong thing.
Yeah. And you will find a financial advisor, a super fund, or whatever that you work with that understands what you've just been through and tailors their service to make sure that they're rebuilding, trust. There's lots of transparency. It would be, if you've gone through something like this, you then working with an advisor, rebuilding trust, all that kind of stuff, the relationship and the ongoing support you're going to need from that advisor will look very differently to somebody who hasn't had a major trauma like this. So you need to find that advisor that you trust, that is very transparent, that can really hold your hand through that. And that's one of the things, Tracy talks about as well. So this, I just would want to stress that, yes, there's some bad eggs and bad things happen in industries, but it shouldn't tarnish the whole industry. There's amazing people out there. There's amazing products and super funds, and there are investments that are very transparent. It might mean to you that you don't want to ever go into what we call unlisted assets, one that you can't see the valuation, and they're, not like your stocks and shares and ETFs and things. Like, it might change the direction and how you invest going forwards, but finding the person that you trust to work with, checking their qualifications, checking their history, meeting with a few, all of these things will help you get back on track.
Yeah, well said. That's a great question, though. Second time we've kind of touched on it at different perspectives, but we just hope everyone maintains the faith. And if you are in the rebuilding phase, if you have been swindled, even as in a smaller way, not something that's newsworthy, in a relationship or something like that, I hope you can find the confidence that there are good people out there and you can rebuild. And I'm always amazed by how much people can save and build for their retirement or whatever their family in a really short number of years. Like, people, I think, underestimate what they can do when they're really focused. So that's good news for everyone. Okay, cool. What's next?
Next question is from Dizzy Rascal, and we always, it's pretty common that we get a Dizzy Rascal, which we love. It's hilarious. Okay, this question is, hey guys, love the podcast. Just wondering if you could explain the use of margin lending from a portfolio. Is it possible or is it a good idea? So, Owen, you want to add your 2 cents on this one?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, it's a really good question. So for people that don't know what a margin loan is, let's start with that. So the loan part is pretty easy to understand. It's not your money, you borrow it from someone. The idea of a margin loan, and there's a movie, I think it's Simon Baker, it's called Margin Call, and effectively what the premise of this is you're given money to invest, and the way where the word margin comes from is there's like a margin or a percentage that's your own money that you put up. So say, for example, you have $20,000 and then you have a loan for $80,000. Your margin is 20%, right? What people can then do is they can use that full amount of money to invest in something that grows, like shares or ETFs. Their concept, though, takes a bit of a turn when you realize how the margin actually works. With a margin loan specifically, what happens is when your investment falls, so say, for example, you had $100,000 invested and it fell 10%. So now you're down to $90,000, but your loan is still $80,000. That means that your amount has been squeezed by 10,000. So there's 90,000 total, 80,000 is still the loan, and 10,000 is your part of it. The way margin loans are constructed is that there's a set level that if the balance of the portfolio falls below a certain amount, your investments will be sold, like by the company that gives you the loan, like they'll automatically be sold unless you tip more money in. So they can actually be quite risky because what happens is you've probably heard the concept of a margin call, like the movie. The idea is that when you have to put money in, if you don't put money in, it's often the worst time to sell because your shares are down. If they're good shares, they should come back over time, right? So margin loans can be quite risky in that you're increasing the total value of your investment. And if they fall rather than go up, which you hope, you might end up with a margin call and your original $20,000 can go from 100, oh no, the shares have fallen to 80,000, my amount is zero, and automatically you're sold from that position. So you've just wiped out all $20,000 you have. Meanwhile, a week later, all the shares go back to 100,000 and everything was like it was. You've got nothing. So that's why margin loans can be quite risky. All that said, there are benefits to using loans to invest. I do it. The benefits is that if you use a loan, like debt recycling or equity release or something like this, if you use a loan to invest and provided you do all of the things correctly, get financial advice, you can actually claim the interest on that loan as a tax deduction. This is what negative gearing is on property. It's the same concept, except in property, no one really sells your house from underneath you. The banks will eventually, but it takes a long time for them to get to that. So We don't advise people use margin loans at Rask, just because they are quite risky. They're at the higher end of the risk. But we do have a lot of people that debt recycle and use equity release and all that sort of stuff. And secondly, Gem, I don't know if you've come across any of these advice clients that we have, but we have a lot of clients that use margin loans, but here's how they do it. They have enough money that they could pay off the whole loan literally overnight, because they've all got it sitting in their savings accounts or in their offset accounts. Yeah, and they could just pay it off in an instant. So they're never going to be worried about if they get a margin call, because if they do get the call on the phone and say, hey, such and such, you need to put more money into your account, otherwise we're going to sell it. They're like, yeah, sure. How much do you need? Like, it doesn't matter. So they don't do it with like a big amount of money. They just do it with like a small amount of their cash. So they might only do, like, I know there are a few of our clients do it with like 20% of their portfolio. Like, as in, they might have $1 million and only 200,000 of that is a margin loan. So then it doesn't matter if they get a call, because it's like, yeah, I'll just pay it off. I hope that makes sense, but
Yeah,
I'd like
I
to know what
think
you think.
I think that's right. I think when we talk about margin loans, people get a little bit confused, and they seem really complicated, which they totally are. But I guess if you liken it to when you buy a property, usually they want you to put 20% in. Otherwise, you might have some. Let's just say the rule was you always had to put 20% in. Your house doesn't get revalued all the time by the bank. But if it had dropped in value and the bank had the same thing, they'd be like, hey, pay us more money. We're not comfortable with this level of debt on your house, which is exactly what the shares do. So they don't do it with property, but it's really the same kind of concept. You've got to put in some skin in the game, and then they'll give you a loan and it's secured against this thing. So it's quite similar, but yeah, you've got to have cash. You've got to have a cash flow to be able to support a margin call. I see people say they've got a margin loan, but potentially they're not. They've just got gearing, and that's when they've used their home equity. So if you've got, the equity, like you were saying, maybe you paid your home down to 50% of what it's worth, you can take a loan against the house to buy shares, and you're never going to get a margin call, because the security is the house, not the shares. So it doesn't matter if the shares go up and down. The bank's not ever looking at what you borrowed that money for and not reassessing its value. So that can be a less risky way to, I guess, borrow for shares. But the risk is still there that the shares go up or down. It's just that you're not going to get the margin call because you haven't used a margin loan facility. You've used equity and you've geared it against your home loan. So there's ways you can come to the same outcome without the risk of the margin call, which the risk is on your cash flow. The risk with the shares and what you buy is exactly the same. So with margin call or any kind of borrowing for property, shares, whatever, it can magnify your gains because you've been able to buy an asset bigger than just the cash you had, but it can also magnify your losses when things go wrong. So lots to consider, regardless if it's a margin loan or actually just a gearing, equity release. But it can be a solid strategy, and we shouldn't be scared of debt. Debt's a tool, and it can definitely help us build wealth. We just want to make sure that we've covered all of our basis on what if this happens, what's my exit strategy? You don't want to ever be forced to sell a property or shares when it's the worst time to do it. You want to have options to buy yourself some time and choices.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not a thing to be scared of. I think we have this weird fascination with being debt-free on the property side in Australia. It's like if most people actually understood finance, that know that they shouldn't be debt-free for most of their life. It's actually better to not to be.
Debt's a tool. It shouldn't be scared of.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be scared of it. But you got to use it for good, not evil.
Yeah, that's true. Not to buy a new TV or something like that. But it's actually interesting. So I think a lot of the fear from margin loans in particular, like these ones that are a bit more volatile, ups and downs, I think the big fear from those over the years gone by is that people would use them to buy individual shares. So you would use it to go and buy CBA or go and buy Fortescue shares. And anyone that tunes into the financial news every day would see one day it's up 3%, next day it's down 2%. And it's like, whoa, like that will shake you around a bit. But most people also know that ETFs are far less volatile. So what I'm starting to see is more people using these types of strategies, and debt recycling for that matter, with ETFs. And so you get the whole broad market, not some like really crazy individual share that goes up and down. And so I think there are numerous steps you can take if you decide to go down this path with your financial life, which on first glance, people would be like, oh, that sounds risky. But if you take the right steps, and this is where I think financial advice can pay for itself like multiple times over, is if you educate yourself and get expertise on your side to structure it all correctly. I actually think it's like a no-brainer for like the majority of Australians and the majority of people listening to this podcast to use some form of magnification. We just have to be very careful about what we say on the show. Final thing I'll say on this is, well, we know how you get a loan for a house. How do you get a margin loan? Most of the time when people set these up, they come through one of your big brokers. So your big online trading platforms, they tend to have this arrangement with some way for you to get this. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I don't use a margin loan for what it's worth. And I don't really feel that any need to and I'm a pretty risky type of guy, I got to say, Gemma, so I don't use them, but that's how you get them. It doesn't always have to be the case, but speak to your advisor before you do any of this sort of stuff, because structuring it is the key thing.
Definitely.
Cool. Good question.
Next one is Just a Girl, and I could have written this one myself based on what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, but this was a very long question, so I'm summarizing it. This person owns a property, is wanting to move closer to the city and is thinking of renting it out. The real estate agent told them that they might be able to still sell it capital gains tax free. How is that possible? It sounds too good to be true. So this is a great one. This is a strategy that I absolutely love. It's called the 6-year rule. And the 6-year rule is when a property is considered your primary place of residence. So you've lived in it and then you've moved out. So from the date that you've moved out, if you don't change your primary residence to be another property, so you haven't bought another one that you're now considering your primary residence and that kind of thing, you could potentially move out of this property and you have 6 years to sell it, even though it's being rented and it's now income producing. It's considered an investment. You've got 6 years from the date you move out to sell it still as a primary residence, so capital gains tax free. So this one applies to me after my divorce, and I've just been working with the accountant because I have a property I moved into after the divorce that was always an investment. Moved in, was there about 6 months or no, probably longer, but it just didn't suit me and the kids. So I've rented it out and now my 6 years is ticking and I'm like, okay, am I going to move back in within the 6 years to restart that? Am I just going to sell it within the 6 years? That kind of thing. But it's definitely not too good to be true. There is lots to consider around it. You need to have really solid documentation. You need to be all above board that you actually did live there and it was your primary residence and have proof that. You can't just change your address to it. There's lots to consider, but talk to your accountant about it. Your real estate agent is correct. You just need to make sure you're eligible for it and how it, impacts you. But yeah, 6-year rule is one of my favorites and one that I am very conscious of. Yes.
Yeah. It's and a good little nudge there is get tax advice from your accountant, not the real estate agent. So that's they may be alluding to something which may or may not apply to you, but just get formal advice. That even Gemma here Gemma is actually a qualified financial advisor and a registered tax financial advisor as well. But even she uses an accountant. So that should tell everyone listening to the show the importance of having a good accountant who is actually a tax agent.
And when I emailed the accountant to say, hey, this is my plan, like I've worked out this, I had worked out what I thought the capital gain was. And then they came back and it was way less because they had all these rules and this applies, and the email was like huge.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, you guys are legends. This is why I pay good money for an accountant.
Yes, absolutely you do. Okay, that's great. Yeah, 6-year rule.
Yep.
Just as a general reminder to anyone that owns a property, you may not necessarily need to live in it for the full amount of time to still be eligible to not have to pay that capital gains tax. So it's not as black and white as people think. There is some wiggle room there. aka the grey space in between. So a good one indeed. Okay, we've got one final question, Gem, and this one's a good one for you, I think, and for me to just riff on for a bit.
Perfect. So this one I can't remember if it had a name that was too specific that we don't like to say people's actual names. So I have called them unsure insured.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, I've made their name up. Hi, team. Love the podcast. Just starting investing, and I have a question about life insurance. I'm currently on stepped premiums, but I've heard they get really expensive after age 50. A friend suggested level premiums would be better. What do you think? Great.
So my question to you is first, like with
What is
all these
stepped?
good questions we're getting, what is stepped and what is level premiums? Because we're working through this all as an advice team at the moment as well. What does it mean?
So when you take out an insurance policy, whether it's life insurance, TPD, income protection, trauma, there's two kind of settings of how, like, so the premiums are based on your age, your health, all of that kind of thing. But then there's two settings that you can of how the premiums will change each year. A stepped premium, think of it as steps. It goes up each year because they're reassessing, well, hey, Owen's now 40. Owen's now 45. He's getting more expensive to insure. Where the idea of level is it stays the same as if you were insured, you're always a 25-year-old or whatever age you took it out. Now, it will still change slightly with inflation and different things, but stepped is clear upping because your age, more things can go wrong, like statistically. So one, generally, if you see this on a graph, level tends to start out more expensive but stays stable, whereas stepped starts out much cheaper and there's a crossover at some point. And if you're working with a financial advisor to do this, they can look based on your age that you're taking the policy out where that crossover might happen. In my experience, if it's a true level premium, and there's some conversation around that, but generally, yes, starting out more expensive, it could lock it in and you pay less over the whole period than a stepped. But there's so much to consider around this. And when I was a financial advisor, well, I am a financial advisor, but when I was giving risk advice, one of the things I would consider is, so stepped, yes, it might go up as you get more, older, but potentially your assets are going to build, your debt's going to go down, like all of these other things are going to happen that potentially as the premiums go up, you might be able to shave some of the cover down that like brings it back down. So if you were going to set up a policy and never look at it ever again, maybe level is great. But if you're actually going to be like, no, as I'm building wealth and as my situation's changing, I'm going to change the cover, move it down, like, then maybe stepped actually works out beneficial for you. I think it really depends on your personal circumstances.
I think that there was the kind of the thing that is interesting from this comment I thought I took out of it, which was, I'm currently on a stepped premium, but heard it gets really expensive after 50. Most people listening to this show, after 50, you will have more assets, most of us, because you are investing, because your super's accumulating, because you're paying down your mortgage, the kids are slowly leaving the home if that's the road you go down. So at that point in time, you typically have fewer obligations and responsibilities in life anyway. And so you might actually be looking at dialing back cover rather than having this same level of cover. This is an area of financial advice that, I know you and the team are really well versed in. This is probably a point of my uncertainty, but is it always, when people think of level cover, it's not always level. Like if I say I'm paying $1,000 a year for this type of insurance cover, therefore it should be $1,000 per year for the rest of my life. That's not always the way it works, is it?
No, it's not there. And this is the whole, I remember
so
when
it doesn't
I was...
like, it's when people think of level, it's like level dash variable or something weird, isn't it?
There's still, and so people like, and it's like embarrassing, right, for financial advisors to go, oh yeah, you're on a level premium, but here's your new premium and it's like gone up this significant amount. So that's why I say true level premiums, because there's actually so much that goes into it. Also, there's like inflation might be built into your policy that the cover's going up slightly. So then the premium would go up. There's so many things to consider with it. But this is why I say to people, you can't DIY insurance. You have to go to an advisor, like, to get the right thing, to know what you're doing. And maybe there's a mix of things. The one that you think you're going to have well past 50 might be income protection. Maybe you want to put that on level, but maybe you want the other ones that you're going to shave down and get rid of as quickly as possible. Maybe you want them on stepped. But this is something you need financial advice around so you get the perfect the perfect mix. And yeah, as I said, they can do that crossover and show you where they think it'll be. But yeah, in my experience, level premiums are rarely true level. They're still going to go up. And if you are very proactive with your finances and building wealth and paying down debt, you should be reviewing the cover every year. And if there's a chance to drop your life insurance or something by 100,000 because you've just built, 300,000 and that's your comfort level, then that's what you should be doing, not just set and forget a policy.
Yeah, 100%. So should people have insurance?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much everyone. I can't think of a single example other than you are completely financially independent and you don't need to work. I can't think of an example that people shouldn't have some form of insurance when they're building wealth. If you could only afford to have one, my thing is it would be income protection, right? Because regardless if you can work or not, you've still got expenses. And with income protection, money's coming in each month, you can still build wealth, you can still pay off debt and things. So that's my kind of non-negotiable for myself. But ideally,
I'm 100% life insurance, like the death cover. I am 100% in that camp. Like, I just think I've heard so many, and maybe it's because we do this podcast, we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in our community that we always get the crazy, sad stories. But I just see so many instances of young people, old people getting cancer, getting sick, not having their industry, like they don't know that when they changed to Host Plus or they went to some industry fund that they actually weren't covered.
They lost the cover.
And they thought they had it and they didn't have it, or their balance went down, so now they don't. And it's so sad when I just can't believe it. And I just get really wound up about this because like I pay more on Apple for Apple products every year than I do for my insurance. And I know which one which one's more important.
Well, the good news with life insurance, for most of us, it's actually really cheap because
the life insurance is cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, because statistically, you're more likely to survive an accident, incident or whatever than you are to die. Right. So my issue with life insurance is, and this is going to sound so harsh and I need to work out how I say this better, but you are more of a burden on your family if you survive something and then can't work. Right.
That's TPD. That's the other cover. That's
income protection, TPD, but you dying, yes, your family is going to miss you, but potentially
they'll move on,
No, but yes, life insurance is important. But if the financial burden is, what if you actually survive that and you don't have income protection or TPD and now you can't work, and that is a massive financial impact on your household. So life insurance, once you're gone, your expenses stop. So yes, I think it's still important. I'm not saying it's not important, but this is why I'm also like, everyone's obsessed with life insurance and I'm like, I think the other ones are way more important. What if you live and you are a massive expense to your family, but you can't work or contribute? Life insurance hasn't helped you then. Can we make sure that you're not a financial burden on your family and you can I know I've got to say this better. It sounds so harsh.
No, it's fair. Like, yeah, 100%, Gem. And people are like in three camps about this. There's one camp which is like, I should be right. And there's always Centrelink or something, whatever. But by the way, work cover is not actual life insurance. Just so people are fully across that, like it's not the same thing. The second level is people just get their cover through their super fund, normally like an industry super fund, Aussie super, art, something like that. Pretty good, but oftentimes super. I thought I knew, but I didn't know what I wasn't aware of. So then there's the gold standard, which is getting advice through an advisor who tailors the actual and actually looks at the policy and your medical history to decide what you actually need. That's the gold standard.
They're like your mortgage broker. They're like your broker for loans, right? So we go to brokers to get the best possible loan for our circumstance and look at all the banks. That's what a financial advisor is for insurance. Whereas when you go direct to your super fund, you only get the one policy that they offer that they think is the best for majority of the members. But you can actually go to an individual, the best company for you, and you can link it to your super fund and have some premiums paid out of that. But you don't have to just have the insurance with the one super fund that works for you. Like I have two super funds, one because I need to keep the insurance because it covers pre-existing stuff, but I don't want my money invested with them. I want their insurance. So I've got a minimum amount there, and then I've got another super fund where it has the bulk of my investments and contributions. So this is the stuff why you need financial advice. Like it's scary, the amount of, like people that they think it won't happen to them, and it does. Like my ex-husband finished work at 38. He'll never work again. And he can do that because he has insurance, and now he surfs twice a day. It's not like his life stopped or his expenses. Like he can do that because he had good insurance. He had a great financial advisor.
Who was that? Yeah, wow. So yeah, I just think if you're listening to this, we'll put links in the show notes. If you want insurance only advice, we work with a company called Sky Wealth. There's a link. People know Phil and everyone that's come on the show in the years gone by. But if you want insurance, whether it's like, we have a lot of our retiree clients that come to financial advice that we actually will cancel their policies. But we also have younger clients that will get insurance. And all of our financial advice partners, as part of their process, including us, review your insurance. So it's part of the financial planning process, regardless of whether you want us to do it or help. And finally, if you're not ready to see a financial advisor, you can go back and listen to, I think it was a 7-part series we did on life insurance and the things that you should consider. At the very least, honestly, people, if don't change super funds, don't do this, don't do that until you review your insurance. It's more important than anything. Like, honestly, seriously, get covered. I think that they're all important as well, Gem, but I think as kind of at the moment, I'm the breadwinner in our family. And I think to myself, if I die today, tomorrow, I want my wife, Sarah, Charlie, my son, and everyone that's in my immediate family circle, and including people here in the business. I don't want Sarah to have to deal with all that shit and also have a mortgage and also have to put them through school and also have to just have money. Like, that's not acceptable in any world for me. So as a parent, I take that very seriously. And so having the right amount of cover is like so important. So I advocate for anyone to do the same. Well, this has been heaps of fun. I don't want to end it on a downer. We've covered.
I was like,
we've actually had a pretty hard hitting episode. Let's be honest. We had First Guardian Capital, which is an absolute tragedy. We've had Dizzy Rascal write in about lending and using margin loans, which are risky. About actually the too good to be true one. It actually is true about the 6 year rule. That's a good one. And get insurance because it is important. Step versus level. Think of it as level variable. Like there's a little bit of sprinkling around that whole level thing that has changed in the last few years as well. So insurance important. Yes, the 6 year rule applies. Loans can be used effectively. Just be careful, people. All right. First Guardian, obviously just know people's incentives. That is a case of it's too good to be true. It is. So reach out, get multiple opinions from experts if you're in any way confused, and definitely do some research. And we'll put links in the show notes. Anything else, Jim?
I'll put lots of links in there about the ASIC information for First Guardian, that episode about Tracy Hall rebuilding. I'll put that in. And if you want to finish on a laugh, this week I thought my book, The Money Reset, was being delivered. So I'm getting like some pre-print, like the first ones. Anyway, so I'd get the kids, the box arrives. And I get the kids, I'm like, kids, quick. And like, I was just so excited. I'm like, oh my God, my book is here. And it was the promo cards. And my son is like, Mum, your book's small as hell.
So you managed to fit the Money Reset onto one piece of paper. So for people that are listening, Gemma's holding up like a 1-page pamphlet thing.
It's like the size of 2 business cards. And he was like, small as hell, and just kind of like walked off so unimpressed.
But can you confirm, is it going to be more than 1 page?
It's definitely going to be your average size novel book, finance book. Yeah. Yes. I can't remember how many pages, but it's definitely more than bigger than 2 business cards.
Is it pre-order now?
Yes, pre-order now. I'll put the link in the show notes. But I'll have it literally any day now. And then if you pre-order, they'll be posted, like Amazon and stuff is all 27th of August. So literally
27th of August. Yeah. You can pre-order now and you'll get it next month. Cool.
Yeah. So soon.
How are you feeling about it? Are you excited? Are you excited about the book release?
I really am. I just want it done now. Like, it's such a long process. I just want it done. I'm so excited.
Well, it's super excited. So I can't wait to promote it. check out Gemma on socials. There's plenty of activity around the book and hype over on Instagram as well. You can find us online. Don't forget the Rask community. It's community.rask.com.au, and send in your questions via the link in your YouTube video thing or podcast player. Fun bit of trivia that I'll leave everyone with today. 30% of people that watch a Rask podcast in the last 28 days have watched it on their smart TV. How's that for a fun fact for this month? Huge. I did not realize that. So that's a fun bit of trivia.
And also crazy that we can get that info.
Yeah, we're watching through your TV. As you watch us, we watch you. No kidding, we cannot see that. But Gemma, this has been heaps of fun. Thanks for doing it this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can get daily videos and podcasts on Rask's YouTube channel, or if you want to enroll in a free course on investing, property, business, money, you name it, you can join over 34,000 other students and enroll in a free course on the Rask website. Simply head to www.rask.com.au and follow the prompts. Thanks for watching this Rask podcast.